Good evening, everyone. If you will, find your way to your seats, please. And we're asking that all department heads sit to my left and within the first few rows. So good evening and welcome. My name is Kimba White Dupree from WBOK 1230 AM, and I am happy to be your moderator tonight for Mayor LaToya Cantrell's community budget meeting. We are all here to hear directly from you, the residents, on your priorities for the 2024 city budget. Mayor Cantrell and her administration are hosting meetings within each council district to engage with the public so that you are able to provide input on how the city should allocate funding for services. This meeting was designed to provide greater access to the budgeting process and transparency to ensure that city government works for you. I'll ask now that if you will silence your phones so that the questions and the comments that are read can be heard by all. We'll have the invocation by Bishop Lester Love.
Thank you, Kimba. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the blessings of this day. Thank you, dear Lord, for your people that have gathered today. Thank you, dear Lord, for our mayor, the Honorable Mayor LaToya Cantrell, and to her staff, and to all that have gathered here today. We pray, dear Lord, and we understand that our budget is a reflection of our values. Let our values be bathed in wisdom. Let it be clothed in moderation. Let it be courage, and let it be filled with courage now. And we bless you now. Bless this day. Let everything be done decently and in order. We honor you and we honor everyone that is here. In the name of our Lord we pray. Jesus, amen.
Before we get into the flow of the meeting, we'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Some of the guidelines on how tonight's meeting will flow. Questions and/or comment cards are provided and have been provided as you were entering ahead of the start of the meeting tonight. If you did not get one, there are members of the staff who will be walking the aisles so that you can have your comments and your questions answered. Please turn them into the staff walking the aisles for a response during the question and answer portion of the meeting, which will immediately follow after the budget presentation. If a question was submitted multiple times, it will be grouped with others like it and responded to only once. Attendees are reminded to keep their questions or comments concise, to the point, and relevant. When we reach the question and answer section, we will address all questions first and then read any comment cards. A survey was also provided to each attendee. The city encourages all attendees to complete and submit it before the end of the meeting. Residents are also encouraged to meet with some of the core department heads that are in attendance tonight after the meeting has wrapped. And now I would like to introduce Ms. D, the community member. Yes, please come forward.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. I'm Dee Dee Green. I'm a member of the Holly Grove Neighbors Association Board of Directors. And on behalf of the association, I want to extend a very warm welcome and a wealth of gratitude to Mayor Cantrell, to her staff, and to community members for your participation in tonight's community budget meeting. Thank you to the city for presenting the 2024 budget proposal to the community. I know folks are eager to hear more about the budget proposals and communicate their thoughts and ideas. I also know people are looking very forward to seeing their input reflected in next year's budget. We appreciate you choosing our neighborhood for this District A dialogue. Just a brief plug for the Neighborhood Association. For those of you who live in Holly Grove or around Holly Grove, if you don't already engage with Holly Grove neighbors, I encourage you to see me or Miss Lillian, wave your hand, Miss Lillian, after the meeting, get a membership card, sign up for our mailing list to learn more about the exciting events happening in Holly Grove. We're hosting a candidate forum in September for the new legislative seat in District 23. We host quarterly community meetings, food shares, supply giveaways, beautification projects. We have a community garden or a few community garden spaces here in the neighborhood and much, much more. So if you're interested in learning more, please see me or Miss Lillian. Thank you very much and welcome to everyone.
Good evening again. So just a reminder, if you do not have a comment card and you have questions, even your follow-up questions, you can include them on your comment card. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Madam Mayor LaToya Cantrell.
Thank you so much, Kimba. Thank you so much for being here, for moderating many of the budget meetings with the community. And thank you so much, I would say, to the Communities Academies of New Orleans family, of course, Esperanza family. Thank you for hosting us here this evening. Most importantly, thank you to the residents who showed up. This is your budget hearing for District A, and for us to have the opportunity to hear really directly from you. Before we go into brief highlights, I wanted to, ask Council Member Joe Giarrusso, comment, sir. We welcome you. We thank you for being here as well. And then we'll also hear briefly from our CAO, Gilbert Montano, and I'll take it from there. Councilman?
I'm going to use my voice. Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Dee, thank you to you and the board for all the work that you do. I want to thank Dunbar School for hosting everybody tonight and look forward to seeing what the mayor and her team has to present. Thank you all so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Councilmember Giarrusso, for your leadership. Of course, Councilor, you're the budget chair, so this is a perfect moment for us to kind of have these conversations. And of course, thank you to the team and the staff who so ardently show up for everything and are so willing to get to going with all the work that the city does provide us on any given day and all the challenges that we currently face. Looking forward to the discussions and appreciate all your time, energy, and effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gilbert, and just a good and a great shout out and a thank you to Bishop Love for being here, offering your prayers. We appreciate that. And Dee Dee showing up every and all the time, being a voice for Holly Grove. So we appreciate you as well, and Miss Lillian. So with that, what I wanted to do is just kind of start with a brief overview. First of all, this evening is to talk about and really hear from you about priorities for the year of 2024. Okay, so this is budget priorities coming from you. Right now, we're absolutely in the midst of 2023 and the budget that was approved by the New Orleans City Council. We're working through that budget versus actuals literally right now. So this is about forward thinking. This is about 2024. We do not have a budget to present to you because we are shaping it and cannot shape it without having adequate input. Once we hear from you, the administration will then begin to compile and create a proposed budget that will then go to the New Orleans City Council for review. The council will host their own budget hearings. As you know, that's another opportunity for public input, public dialogue directly with the council members. And of course, the council members will adopt and must adopt a balanced budget by November the 1st. And so December the 1st. So we're moving forward in that regard. As I've started these budget meetings, just giving just really a brief kind of overview of where we've been, where we are, and where we want to continue to go as a city and on a steady trajectory. We have department leadership that is in the room, every single department within city government that are here and present. Again, we represent over 4,000 city employees that work on our behalf every single day. But it's very important for the leadership to hear what you have to say directly because, again, we know that we're wanting to exercise the values that are truly reflected throughout the city of New Orleans. Now, as we look at, and we're talking about the budget for 2024, but it's very important to understand even where we've been. Now, you all know that in 2020, we were hit very hard by COVID-19, but even leading up to 2020, the city of New Orleans has dealt with and managed through various challenges that we knew were coming or did not know was coming our way, but remained steady, focused on getting things done, and have been able to ensure that the funding source, meaning your budget, your resources, have been used steadily, have been used wisely, and we have been good stewards of the dollars. Therefore, making sure that our credit score has remained strong, making sure even, and I will say we're united in this, meaning the administration and the council, relative to the quadrennial assessment that is forthcoming this year. We do not want to see a roll forward. We believe that our 2024 budget can be built and shaped with the revenues currently held by the city of New Orleans and how it's been forecast, and again, being good stewards. But in 2020, let me tell you, we were hit with a huge deficit of over $100 million that we had to fill the gaps with and work to try to fill that gap. Immediately, we had to do more with less. And that did mean cutting 20% from every single city department across the board to ensure, again, that we kept city government working for you. We were able to secure resources from the federal government that went through the state of Louisiana called CARES Act money, but the city of New Orleans was not fully reimbursed for the expenses or the revenue that we spent. Still shy of $70 million that the city never received, meaning never was reimbursed for the expenditures fighting back COVID-19, in which we led not only in the state, but we led in the United States of America because of the hard work of these men and women and others who are not in the room. Based on the city not receiving full reimbursement, it really gave me the foundation to stand on, to fight single-handedly and with my brother and sister mayors across the country for this city to receive a direct allocation. And that direct allocation came from the American Rescue Plan dollars passed at the federal level. We received it in 2 tranches. The first tranche we received in 2021, and then that allowed us not only to fill gaps, but also keep government going. I don't know where we would be then nor now if we did not receive that direct allocation from the federal government. The first was $194 million, again allowing us to fill that gap with a total of $388 million. So in 2021, we were then able to adopt a budget at $633 million, again moving ourselves right into 2022, ensuring that we were moving towards a steady fund balance. 2023, we saw not only that fund balance grow, but we looked at the data and the trends across the country and really even globally, and we said that we needed to, again, be very comprehensive, but also cautious in regards to how we would spend. Looking at this city getting back to where we need to be by the year of 2025. So we've been able to utilize resources, direct one-time dollars from the federal government to plug our budget, but also to allow us to span it across the year of 2023, looking at 2024, and even going into 2025. And so this has all been one, not only managed appropriately, but it gets us to this year where we passed a budget of $1.4 billion. Now this is your general and your capital budget. We've adopted, I would say, our priorities that have remained steady from year to year, but this is our check-in with you to make sure that we're again aligned and on the right track moving into 2024. As it relates to the priorities, public safety being treated as a matter of public health has been front and center in terms of what we have been able to do not only this year, but as we move through this year and move into 2024. We do see that the infusion in public safety, and I'm talking about public safety not just in regards to the New Orleans Police Department, but heavily we were able to push dollars into NOPD relative to retention as well as recruitment, but also tools and force multipliers and equipment that our officers said was needed, and they are putting those resources to work. We graduated, and here recently, we're steady in regards to, we launched our most recent academy, class 199, last week. It was the largest complement of recruits that we've seen since 2019. Now that hit the ground with 33 recruits. You all know prior to that, the class that I graduated, it was 11. 33, this is proven results that we're doing the right thing relative to recruitment. We've done some restructuring that's also tied to how we're improving relative to public safety, and we are seeing results. We've heard again, treating public safety as a matter of public health, so we have absolutely invested very heavily in young people. This also speaks to Thrive Kids, for example, where our young people have said mental health is their #1 priority. The city of New Orleans put $10 million into Thrive Kids to provide all of our young people with behavioral health services, no matter which school they go to, but heavily focusing on public school. This is a 3-year commitment. This is in partnership with Children's Hospital, and again, needed in this community, looking through the lens of public health to ensure public safety. This is also aligned with our mobile crisis intervention unit. As you know, again, from the public, treating mental health, being able to respond to mental health, freeing up the burden off of the backs of our officers, but getting qualified and capable individuals to respond, we're seeing results there. We've had over 290 calls answered since June 1st when we did our soft launch, but we're only seeing progress every single day. And every response, it means that it's something that the NOPD can, one, redirect their service as well as their attention to when it's about mental health. Now, these are calls that are nonviolent. Of course, if violence is present, NOPD does and will respond. We anticipate an additional $450,000 in federal dollars as it relates to domestic violence and advocacy, which we're putting resources here this year into domestic violence, and we want to continue on that path as we move through and towards the year of 2024. Quality of life, homelessness, that was a big priority that came from you all that we've been focusing on this year. We've onboarded our own Office of Homeless Services and Strategy. We have our director, Nathaniel Fields, who focuses on our homeless community every single day. So now we have, as a city, eyes on this matter, eyes on this issue every day, and we're seeing results, but we do want to build out a 10-year strategic plan, again, for the city of New Orleans, which is also coupled with affordable housing and staying very much focused on directing our people to housing opportunities. Also focusing on infrastructure. We will continue to focus on infrastructure in this city. We must do that. Not only spend dollars that have been allocated by the federal government for us to spend that are on deadline, but also to leverage bond money that you all have allowed us to sell. Right at November of 19, you gave us the go-ahead to sell. We went forward in 2021 with our first bond sale, putting those dollars to action in 2022, also in 23. We do expect to go out for a second bond sale very soon. But because of our credit score, we realized a nice premium from that first sale that's, again, living with us and allowing us to fill gaps where they are in terms of infrastructure so that we can complete streets, complete various areas and projects that are a priority to you. In District A, for example, 50 roadwork projects have been completed with an estimate of $250 million. 23 projects are under construction right now, estimated at $313 million. 81 roadwork projects planned with an estimate of $469 million. So this is real money, and these are real projects, but also with more resources needed. And what we know is that if we continue to do the work, spend the federal money wisely, it sets this city up very nicely to therefore garner additional federal money that have been passed at the federal level. I do know that District A, and particularly areas of Holly Grove, particularly areas of Black Pearl, we've had some issues relative to contractors in terms of projects kind of opening up, meaning more streets being torn up, slow to therefore fix. And because of Black Pearl, quite frankly, that was one of the areas of a lesson learned that required the city of New Orleans to restructure our awarding in terms of our bidding to contractors, as well as contractor accountability. So as of now, and what has been adopted, contractors can no longer come in and break up all streets that are tied to their job, but they do 2 blocks at a time, complete them, and move on. So yes, it's been painful. We try to make it as painless as possible, but in doing so, there's been lessons learned. We learn, we do better. And our goal is to do better every time. We will continue to invest in economic development, workforce development opportunities, training our people, soft skills, preparing our people for jobs of the future, but that are jobs right now in the city of New Orleans. Bioscience, technology, advanced manufacturing, you name it, focusing on renewable energy platforms happening in this city. The NASA Michoud, the campus, space campus being built out. It's a real thing, and we are training our people for jobs. Technology continues to be infrastructure for the city of New Orleans. Also, and before I be quiet and turn it over to hear from you, I do have to say that we were able to see this city bouncing back stronger and faster after COVID-19 than we really did anticipate, meaning tourism picked up swiftly. It pretty much became revealed that those who were traveling were wanting to go to cities that were more aligned with their lived values, cities that made tough but sound decisions after and during COVID-19, that therefore allowed us to bounce back. We also saw film, the film industry. We saw the largest revenue in 21, over $1 billion, but we saw that be steady in 22, but also in 23. We know that we have the strikes going on, which is impacting us directly, but the fact of the matter is the city of New Orleans is the 4th in production in the United States of America, and that is behind LA, New York, and Atlanta. We do not anticipate that changing. We're building infrastructure in that regard. And so we have been investing over and over again in people, in our communities, affordable housing, workforce, infrastructure, you name it. There is more work to be done, no doubt about it, but work in progress is happening. So when I reflect on even being picked up in a high water vehicle 2 weeks into the job over 5 years ago, boil water advisories happening several times a week, the areas in the city flooding due to rainwater, hearing large or alarming calls relative to the Sewage and Water Board in terms of billing. What we know now and what we've seen now, progress is happening. We need to continue on that path, but I have to say, the same people that we have been depending on to get us through not only a cyber attack, a collapse downtown, COVID-19, the city opening its home to 15,000 residents, even from Alexandria because of a hurricane, for us dealing with hurricanes on our own, Hurricane Ida, us dealing with tornadoes that came our way, still and through it all, your city has been leading, your city hasn't stopped working, and the same people that got us through, who are in this room, and the thousands that are not, are the same people that we're depending on to carry us forward. So if you don't mind, before I turn it over, show a little bit of love to the men and women that keep this city going on all of our behalf every single day. Thank you. They have answered the call to service. They serve. And I always like to say, when one person is serving, your entire family is on that front line serving right along with you. And so with that, the city of New Orleans is high in every single department that I know that matters to you. And of course, public safety, but even beyond that. Code enforcement, safety and permits, you name it, finance, DPW, property management, it goes on and on. Good people we need to run good government. So with that, Kimber, I'm gonna turn it back over to you. You'll get us in the Q&A and we'll move on.
Yes, just as a reminder for those of you who may have comments or questions, and also if you did not get to fill out or complete your survey, there are people walking the aisles to hand them to you. So here is a comment and question from Office of Youth and Families. Your administration has been a champion and strong supporter of early childhood education. Can you share what your administration is doing to ensure every child has access to a quality early childhood education in settings that work for families?
Okay, so thank you, first of all, I would say, for the question. Education is a priority, and early learning is where it's at. You all, thank you for answering the call to action when we came before you and asked for your support to pass a millage for early childhood education. Alarmingly, this community, this city said yes. And as a result of it, your city was able to realize over $20 million that was also matched by the state of Louisiana to ensure that we have early learning seats in the city. So this is something that we're making sure we're working with Agenda for Children, all of our partners, to ensure that those seats are filled. And we do see the community is responding in real time to get those young learners into a seat. In addition to that, the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families, of course, partners with our CMO community, New Orleans Public Schools, as well as the Orleans Parish School Board. We're working very heavily on the mental health piece, Thrive Kids, that came directly from the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families, again, meeting our young people where they are with mental health services. This also speaks to early learners, and it matters as it relates to our families. In addition to that, we have made sure that the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families focuses very heavily even on truancy. We see that truancy was an issue leaning into last year, and we're wanting to join and partner with the Orleans Parish School Board and New Orleans Public Schools to join their campaign to really encourage our young people and their families not to miss more than 5 days a year, meaning of absenteeism this year. But we've also put in $400,000 to build out a truancy program to work with the educational community, because we do believe that greater accountability does fall on our school environment, because they're able to track and see that data in real time in regards to who's showing up and who's not. We do not believe that the New Orleans Police Department should carry on this burden. We believe that it is a shared responsibility, but more importantly, right there with those who interact with our young people every single day. So I can go on and on and on talking about early learning opportunities in this city, but I tell you, this city is connecting the dots, and I'm just gonna add this on and I'll be quiet. The most recent is also with the health department, and that is our Family Connects. And what we're doing, we're moving forward with our universal home visiting program. There are about 3,000 babies born every year in this community. What we're saying, starting this fall, that within that first week, that mother, that family gets home, they will be visited by a registered nurse. We know that this will help with maternal health in the city, But this is our way of putting money where we know the problem is, and we also believe that when we get in that house, we can also see other needs. If there's housing needs, if there are workforce needs, of course, if there are educational needs. But this is our way of building that trust, to walk with that family, then get into that early learning seat, of course, then get into a quality education environment, and therefore a holistic approach is how we're going to deal with public health and public safety. I know that was a lot. Kimba.
And this is another follow-up from Office of Youth and Families. How can residents help with truancy keeping youth enrolled in a program that serves their needs, including literacy development, vocational training, and behavioral health?
So the biggest way is really for us to be in lockstep and in partnership with the charter management organizations, as well as the Orleans Parish School Board and NOLA Public Schools. That's where the city of New Orleans is connecting, and that's where we're also putting resources. The best way is for you to know children in your neighborhood, as well as who's coming to school in your neighborhood, being the eyes and ears, and not being afraid to share information. When you see something, say something. The best line of defense is really how we take care of ourselves, meaning how we take care of one another.
All right, the next question is for roadworks. There's a request for budget 2024 to include additional roadworks projects that have been left undone, or is there money for projects that have been left undone?
Okay, so as it relates to road work, now you can also visit Road Work NOLA. You can also be, if you want, you will get with us and be more specific in regards to the areas of your interest. But we do have projects in queue, not only through this year, 23, 24, 25. And so there's a need for more and additional resources. But again, as I mentioned, we're doing these projects, and we're one of the only cities in the country right now doing the amount of infrastructure work, especially with federal dollars in the country. New Orleans is doing it. So when the federal government wants to go to cities to show progress or to show as a model, they're coming to the city of New Orleans, and we're showing them in real time what we're doing. But it sets us up very nicely for additional bipartisan dollars that is on a deadline to get done. Sarah, where's Sarah? Come on, Sarah. Listen, I was looking at my peripheral, and I got it wrong.
We had?
Yep, you got
Is it
it.
hot?
Well, it was on, Sarah. Come over here.
I think the mayor covered it really well. We have a substantial amount of work that's already happened in District A, and we have more work that's coming down the pipeline. Right now, our focus is on wrapping up some of the Wave 1 and Wave 2 projects that the mayor alluded to earlier on in her comments. What happened, we pushed a lot of projects out early on in the administration, and the scoping had been done 10, 11, 12 years ago. And so what happened was we had contractors who had, upwards of 100 blocks in their projects, and as they went out there and started digging, they found that the subsurface utilities had to continue to deteriorate. And so they had to make a lot of changes during construction in the field, and that's really what has led to the problem where we've had blocks open for years and years at a time. The good news is that we are wrapping up projects. The mayor mentioned Black Pearl. Black Pearl A and Black Pearl B are both substantially complete. We're going to be wrapping up Holly Grove B in the next couple of months. We're going to be wrapping up Holly Grove A also by the end of the year. And we do have future projects in Holly Grove and throughout District A. What we're really trying to focus on is being more strategic in the way that we put projects out. We don't want to overwhelm neighborhoods anymore. And as the mayor said, when we do put them out, they're going to be task order based. So no longer are you going to have contractors get a project with 150 blocks and be able to tear everything up. It's not going to happen anymore. We're going to have more control as a city over how the contractors move forward.
Thank you, Sarah. And this really just speaks to, when we came in here 5 years ago, we had less than 1% of the federal allocation, that $2 billion spent. And that money has been on a deadline. So we had to hurry up, get projects to notice to proceed, get those projects through the door. We did a lot too soon, but again, we didn't have time on our side. But through that, we've learned, and we have pivoted significantly, and it speaks to what Sarah just mentioned. Kimba?
Yes. How can citizens help with the homelessness strategies and help with assisting the quality of life for all? And the follow-up to that is, are we considering a standard of care that will assist those who may pose a threat to themselves and others?
Sorry,
We can do that
Kimber.
again if you
I
like.
knew that it was okay. I'm sorry. So homelessness, what can our people do to help with homelessness? Are we a continuum of care? What was it?
It is, are we considering a standard of care that will assist those who pose a threat to themselves and others?
Okay, so as it relates, one, to homelessness, look, Nate can ask you for your support in his daily operation. He has been boots on the ground since he came to the city of New Orleans, but the city of New Orleans will continue to invest in homelessness. What we were able to do, we invested very heavily in Ozanam Inn so that they can move to a new location right there at Poydras Row, and also begin to service not just men, but women. We invested heavily in the women's and children's shelter as well. We invested very heavily in our own low barrier shelter. We increased it from 100 beds to 300 beds, and this happened even during the midst of COVID-19. We have been able to utilize federal money through HUD to help put our people into housing. We have been partnering with Unity, which is the provider for our region. It doesn't come directly to the city of New Orleans. It goes through Unity to ensure a continuum of care model. So we're working towards a 10-year strategic plan around homelessness. And we do believe that we can get there, but we know we can't do it alone. Nate, anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have done a terrific job. We have been out in the streets the entire heat wave. Today makes day 23 for myself, being out there checking on individuals who are in the encampments, making sure that they are alive and well. I passed out a bunch of water. I think today's numbers were 1,226 since July 31. Yes, 1,226 bottles of water since July 31st, starting every single day at 6:30 a.m. So if we have persons who want to volunteer and help out and come out in the heat and pass out waters with me, by all means, come on. But the bigger piece is being a part of the strategy and also being at the table for conversation, because we have to bring the human back into the homeless services community. We do not want to throw people away, and we want you all to be a participant in that process, making sure that we lift up the voices of those who are voiceless for quite too long. So thank all of you for being patient within that process and wanting to participate in that process with homeless services. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. And I believe the question even talked about some wraparound services, and I know that we have, you know, let's want to mention the dental.
So we've been working with all of the community partners to do wraparound services. We've been working with the health department. We've also been working with our community partners about doing wrap services in the community. We are actually looking at 2 pilot programs to go into the encampments and help persons with mental health and mental health services, and also looking at some long-term care for those individuals to make sure that they are taken care of best as possible. Right now, we do not have long-term care for hospital stays, and we have to work on changing that so that we can make sure that those individuals not only go into the hospital, but stay in the hospital until they are treated and well and transition into permanent supportive housing. Right now, that isn't so. As a matter of fact, if we can get people to stay in there for 3 days, it's great. But if we can get people to actually stay there for the long-term care that they actually need and transition them into permanent supportive housing, that would be the ideal situation. But right now, with the help of the Health Department and Office of Community Development, we are looking at different models that will work for the individuals we're currently serving.
Thank you so much, Nate. And as it relates to mental health services in the city of New Orleans, you know that they're inadequate, and especially for our general population of people. That's why we've activated and put your resources to work for our children, and even as it relates to the mobile crisis intervention unit. But the fact of the matter is, our hospitals have our people, and it's not their fault, but they're in hallways. All throughout, we have inadequate services, and the city of New Orleans is being forced to work to build a mental health facility for the jail that will treat about 40 people. And so we say, and united in that, one, that if it were for the general population, meaning for our inmate population and general population across the board, absolutely. $43 million for 40 people. This is what we're being forced into right now. Kimba.
I live in Broadmoor and serve on the board of the Committee for a Better New Orleans. CBNO works to build healthy soil for New Orleans grassroots by helping left-out communities understand and navigate city decisions. Can you explain in detail how the public comments from today's meeting will be compiled and where residents can see the results of their engagement?
Thank you, Kimba. So the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Engagement has been coordinating and making sure that not only you have the comment cards, but that they are received, and that they're also, and the survey that is being distributed, that it will be analyzed and it will be made available publicly. Of course, one of the first lines of that will be, website as well as mass correspondence, newsletters, and the like going out to the public. But we will make the results very much public, and it will be a reflection in the proposed budget that also goes to the New Orleans City Council.
And there are two follow-up questions. One is, it asks, how can residents track the budget throughout the year outside of these meetings?
So as it relates to tracking the budget throughout the year, we do have a website, but the budget is a living document, right? And so when you talk about budget versus actuals, it's something that we do provide, but again, it's a living document that changes over time. And so with that, our goal is to be as transparent as possible, and that's also working with the City Council that holds monthly budget meetings with the administration, and where the administration has to go before and also not only defend the work, but also speak to the work, priorities, and progress. Anything to add there, Gilbert?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask actually,
Norm?
to Councilperson Geruso. Yeah, sorry about that. But go ahead, Norm.
Sure. The only thing I'd add is that the only thing I'd add specifically is that, as the mayor said, it is very much a living, breathing document. So although we have,
You may have to come to this one. You may have to come to this one.
Yeah, just get up.
it was going to be brief, but now I guess turned a little longer. The only thing I would add is, although we do have monthly budget meetings and then quarterly check-ins, on the back office start of things, we really evaluate and watch the budget on a weekly basis. We have to see how the trending is going for overtime for our public safety agencies. We have to see how some of the non-personnel things like goods and services that we have to pay for are, what is the closeout of them and the time of the closeout, because that all matters as you're building a budget. So whomever asked the question of how often do we look at the budget, it's weekly, if not on some cases daily, when we get closer to some of those overtime pushes into the fourth quarter. But then, as the mayor said, and I'm sure council member will articulate, we do have to provide both the personnel reports, the other operating reports, and then each quarterly basis, we're providing full disclosures of almost the vast majority of the budgets. And we match that, of course, with our REC, which is the other side of the budget, which is the revenue, to make sure everything blends and threads into one holistic, balanced budget.
Yeah, thank you, Gilbert. And every week, I receive a review in terms of those budget versus actuals for every single department every week, starting of my week. Actually, I receive it on a Sunday and go through it so that I know exactly where we are and what's left in each of the fields and the like. In addition to that, I meet with my leadership team every Monday as well, and we go over, again, with the CFO, those allocations as well. Now, receipts are remitted to the City of New Orleans, meaning tax receipts, sales tax receipts. So they're remitted to the city the 20th of every month. So after the 20th of every month, then when I get it, we'll compile it. And of course, that's the look towards the previous month, right? So that's how we go through the budget and making sure that we're spending wisely and we're able to see any red flags present themselves even before they present themselves. So more of a proactive approach. Kemba.
Yes, Councilperson Jeruso, would you like to add more? Yes, please.
Good evening. So the question is, what can you look at on a monthly basis? The mayor and Gilbert are right. We get a packet that is online that the administration puts on there that, number one, has all of the revenue that the city collects. So if you want to see where we are on sales tax, property tax, administration of fees, everything that's going on, that is the very first report. Next report is, as the mayor said, is about personnel. How much money is each department spending? Where do they stand? Are we over, under, and can you see trending on overtime or other things happening there? The third report is the operating expenses. So you know how much each department is spending on all the things it needs to buy. That can be as simple as pens, it can be equipment, it can be anything that those departments need in order to do their goods. Next thing is we get a very long report that's called FTE, full-time equivalent. That's all the employees that are within the city of New Orleans. The mayor did it already. I will channel Councilmember Green. The city is hiring. There are plenty of open positions. You will always see how those are and where those are available in that report. And then the last report is all of the funds that the city of New Orleans has. So you can go through and see in every single way where those funds are. So on a monthly basis, Gilbert, his team comes to present his council, as the mayor said. You can see all of the data right there, and it's all available on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Yeah, and give your budget chairman a round of applause. Kimba.
Yes, we are reading tonight in the public transportation desert. We are less than 100 yards away from Airline Highway. The Jefferson Parish bus passes less than 100 yards from us. This bus makes a straight shot downtown to Tulane Avenue to the main library in the CBD. No one in Holly Grove can access this bus because of the fence in the railroad track. Can we get an upgrade or at-grade railroad crossing like Jefferson Parish?
Okay, so as it relates to that particular crossing, we'll follow up with you on that. The Regional Transit Authority, RTA, we have a new links plan that was created by the community throughout this city. It was a robust planning process, outreach process, and that is the plan, the links plan that will be fully implemented. It looks towards ridership, of course, equity, accessibility, and the like. And we're continuing to get federal dollars in to help us improve as well as implement these strategies. But I want to dig a little bit deeper on the specifics relative to this crossing, and we'll get back to you on that. But I will take that. And I'm not sure if Lana is here. Is Lana here? I didn't see Lana. Hankins? Okay, but we'll get I'm getting the information, and I'll provide you with a little bit more relative to that crossing specifically.
Can we implement more translators or digital translation devices to be able to communicate to all residents of New Orleans and meet their needs or concerns?
Okay, so translation, I'm being told, is a priority. I'm receiving it as a priority. I know that it's something that the city of New Orleans has invested in and even doubled down in its investment this year alone. But in terms of getting more, we'll look into that for certain.
And just a reminder for those of you who have questions or comments, if you're not able to submit them to the staff that are still walking the aisles, if you would like to submit questions or comments, you can email your questions or comments to citybudget@nola.gov. citybudget@nola.gov is the email address that you can send follow-up questions as well. The next question is, can we see a push on retention of residents who are native to be homeowners through ordinances like previously asked, where $100 in historic or community connection could be enough to purchase a home in the community where the resident has the most relevance?
Well, we have to be fair in our practices, and particularly as the money that we receive is primarily federal money. So HUD oversees those dollars, and we have to be fair. We cannot be discriminatory in our practices at all. But as it relates to making sure that locals have an opportunity to purchase and buy in the city of New Orleans, and in particular neighborhoods, these are programs that we're focused on and lifting up. We're working, of course, with partners, meaning development partners, that can also respond or submit to the city of New Orleans when we do put out notices of funds that are available. The next supernova, it'll be a supernova that will hit at the beginning of 2024. And this is, again, where we award resources, our dollars, to partners, small as well as large developers for these projects, but also to partners to help with single-family home ownership, and even a meeting we had today, Tyra, when we are wanting to invest in not just getting our people into homes, but getting them into homes where they can build not only equity, but also have a subsidy. So doubles, for example, when we can get a family into a double, then we're also creating an opportunity for them to subsidize and really create wealth and transferable wealth in the city of New Orleans. This also speaks to our owner-occupied programs as well. We believe that if we can keep people in their homes, in the neighborhoods that they've already been living in, that this will not only ward off gentrification, but it will allow for a healthy redevelopment and stabilization to a neighborhood. Anything to add, Tyra?
Yes, just one correction before I add, and that is the supernova will be released by the end of the month. So it's August. Yes, you said January. But we have a different NOFA that's going to be released in January, and that one would be just for new development. The one in August is for gap financing for those projects that we currently have in the pipeline. Also, with the home ownership program, as the mayor said, we still have funding for that. We have a pot of money, is $55,000 towards down payment and $5,000 towards closing costs. It is HUD funding, and with that funding, you have to be in a low to moderate income. You have to already have gotten your lender, been approved, and also attended the first-time home buyer classes, because we want to make sure that you're ready for the home ownership, but also to be able to sustain that home. Keeping in mind, we know that insurance is high, interest rates are high, but one thing that I can say is that our home ownership program, that has not stopped. Currently, right now, since August of last year, when we did we had allocated $7.5 million towards that program. We currently have 74 new homeowners already. So that program is still there, and as funding comes, we're going to continue to put monies there.
Thank you, Tyra. And the good news about ours is, even when we talk about soft seconds, so it's getting people in homes, one that they can afford and they can be in there. And standing corrected, as I tell my people, get me straight, and get me straight in real time, because information is very powerful and it's necessary. The supernova will go out by the end of this month. And then starting at the beginning of 24, that's when our other NOFA will go out. We have been able to keep these NOFAs rolling, I would say, in ways that we haven't seen in decades, really having a pipeline for development. And we're no longer awarding dollars if the projects are not ready, meaning shovel ready. Because if a project is shovel ready, let's move to that project first, and therefore circle back to a project that is up and coming. So with that, Kimba.
Yes, and I'd like to ask Colin Arnold to come up and speak more to the translation piece.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak for a minute. I just heard the translation part, and I wanted to make sure that we're headed into the height of hurricane season, and we've said consistently that staying connected is I think now more important than ever. With the storms that we've seen, the timelines that we've had, that up-to-date communication is really important. I think it's important to note that NOLA Ready, which is under the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, has really is going as far as we can right now with translation services. We have contracted with a vendor, Rave Mobile Safety. We have the ability to translate emergency alerts into Spanish and into Vietnamese. We're really excited about the future as technology increases, about how we can get the word out there as well in every language, including, not just because she's here, but American Sign Language as well. So these things are really important, and we're also have a bid out currently for a permanent full-time language and translation contract for the city that obviously we would like to use for public safety messaging, for emergency messaging, but it's going to be available to every city department to use for any type of communication that they need to put out in the community that can be translated. And so there's a lot of work being done there, and we look forward to doing more. So thank you.
Thank you, Colin. And just to make sure that you know that we're focusing on translation with every program that we've been talking about, even as it relates to early learning. Kimber.
Yes. Does the lot next door does the lot next door program still exist, and can it apply to a lot going into auction?
Okay. So what we have a mow to own program that was created, and with the thought of the lot next door. But this was also one that was created for residents who were maintaining the lot adjacent to them. They put in the money, they put in the sweat equity, they should have the first rights of refusal to that property. Not every property is created equal in the program, but I'll ask Tom. I know Tom will come up and give you a little bit more meat on the bone relative to that, but we were able to invest over $10 million into code enforcement for this year because it was a priority of yours, but also the administration with more to come. Tom's shop is hiring in the city of New Orleans. Tom, good to see you and glad you're feeling better.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Moto-owned lot next door, that was piloted by this administration a couple years ago. We just revamped the rules this summer, so a lot more properties are available. It's going to be cheaper for people who want to take advantage of it. It's been simplified, so really it was more of a niche program in the past, but now I think it's going to be of much greater interest. Typically, the way it works is a property you'll have an overgrown lot, the city will try to auction it off, and it will fail. And that's when the property becomes eligible for Mo to own. But the main thing is if there is a vacant lot near you that you're interested in, get in touch with us, codeenforcement@nola.gov, all one word, code enforcement, and we'll kind of let you know where it stands. It might be eligible for Mo to own right now, in which case you'll want to grab it. You can take care of it for a year, and it can be yours. We could tell you what steps have to happen in the future for it to become eligible, but can at least put it on our radar that you're interested, and we can give you information about it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Kimber?
Yes. It would be good to see more street repairs, not patches, some blocks and not others. More police patrols, sewage and water board completed, I'm assuming completed projects, and trash pickup and dumping of tires.
Okay, very good. So we will continue to invest in code enforcement. You just heard from Tom, very heavily as it relates to blighted properties, dumping, tires as well, strategies around that. We'll continue on that path. Relative to infrastructure, that remains a priority for us, but even as it relates to our partnership with the Sewage and Water Board in terms of curb cuts and the like, putting in more dollars so that they can be completed after the repairs are being done. Anything to add on that, Sarah? It was kind of refreshing when we talked about trash to only hear about the tires, so that's a sign of progress, I'm telling you.
Yeah, so the mayor mentioned our Max Pave program, which we're doing with our partners at the Sewage and Water Board. And so what we've done is invest about $8 million in city bond funds to address roughly about 600 of the service cuts that are affecting us all over the city. It's a major quality of life issue. So the contractor is Fleming Construction. They started work a few months ago. They started on the West Bank, finished the work over there. They've finished, I think, about 63 permanent pavement over service cuts in District A alone, and that work will continue. And we're going to stretch the money as far as we can go.
Yep, in our infrastructure team, our committee that was formed to oversee the fair share money that fought very hard to get sales tax redirected for infrastructure for the city of New Orleans. We also put in over $4 million of that in that bucket towards streets as well, filling potholes as well as max pave. Kimba?
Can we have a push on ADA accessibility within new builds and remodeled old builds?
Bills?
Builds, I'm assuming new construction and remodeled construction.
For accessible?
For
ADA?
American Disabilities Act, they're asking for more accessibility.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yes. That's something that will, I would say, remain as a priority. That is tied to infrastructure in the city of New Orleans. We know, and even working with RTA and the like, but we have been, in terms of DPW, redoing and revamping sidewalks as well as ramps throughout the city because we are under watch by the federal government relative to ADA. So this is something that is a priority and something that we will continue to do in the city. Ava, I don't know if Ava's here. Is Eva here? I said Ava. Eva Hurst is our director. Colin, are you coming up? Yeah, I was going to. Oh, okay. What's going on? Okay.
In NOSEP, we were able to hire a functional needs and access coordinator. So their job, long title, but the job very simply is to the best of our ability during disaster operations, conform our plans to ADA requirements. Understand that that's not an easy task, but we think that there's more that we can do. And this would come into play, particularly in sheltering, evacuation, a lot of the other functions that we'd have to do for, say, a hurricane or a tornado. So he works closely with Eva, and we're excited about where that position is going to go. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. A big priority, I know, for me as well, and really coming from the community and those who travel to and from our city, is just having vans that are accessible, like with Uber and the like. We just have a limited amount in the city that can meet the needs of our families living with disabilities.
Can we consider garden bioswales along the neutral ground to assist in flood prevention and beautification?
Well, we can do more than consider because we're doing it right now. We put in over $145 million with only more to come. It is a part of our resilience district plans. We just cut the ribbon not too long ago on Pontilli. It is a system, and it means that it's capturing that rainwater in many different ways, in the bioswales, in the canals, redirecting that water so that it frees it up from going into the drains right away and therefore flooding the city of New Orleans. These systems are working. These systems have been identified by FEMA as a model for the federal government, model for the United States of America, and they are working. And they work in real time. Our goal is to expand upon the work that we're doing throughout the city. This also ties into our urban canopy plan to ensure that we're planting over 40,000 trees in the near future. Again, thoroughly assessing our canopy right now, but investing where it needs to. So yes, green and blue infrastructure will remain top priorities in the city of New Orleans and that are working for this city right now. Anything to add? Greg, Sarah, I'm good? All right, Greg will get me straight quick. Thank you. Oh, Sarah.
Just wanted to add something on the question about accessibility. So the Department of Public Works actually released an accessibility dashboard. It took me a little while because I was trying to look up the website. It's a very long website, but if you go to NOLA.gov and you search accessibility, you can pull up that dashboard and that will give you the updates on where we are in terms of improving accessibility across the city in the public rights of way.
Thank you. And one thing, just an example, I woke up, I think it was yesterday, and I got a direct outreach call from Jim Anderson with Bloomberg Philanthropies urging and asking that the city of New Orleans responds to a grant opportunity where Bloomberg wants to fund up to 25 cities over a 3-year period in leveraging the federal money with real projects on the ground that are tied to climate and equity, because the city of New Orleans, and as I mentioned, is one of the only cities that's doing as much as we're doing. People are paying attention and they're wanting dollars, because these dollars are on deadline. So cities who are ready, that have projects in queue, stand to gain the most. The city of New Orleans is in that number. Pray for us that we get this grant. We're going to apply. Greg, you told me. All right, it's due September the 1st.
Moving forward, would the city consider hybrid options for offering hybrid option for public engagement meetings?
Hybrid options for public engagement. I mean, off the cuff, I'm saying, yeah, I think we do that. We have the neighborhood engagement actually goes into communities utilizing our libraries and the like. They call it coffees on your corner. We will stand that up. If you are more specific in what you're asking for, look, I'm from community. I'm an organizer by heart, and that's how I cut my teeth in this work. Wasn't looking to be mayor of anything, but doing the work got me here. But any examples of that, we'll receive them after the meeting. And I say, well, if we can do it, why not? If it's an opportunity for us to hear from the public in a way to get more from the public, I'm for it.
Madam Mayor, you mentioned a pivot from lessons of companies tearing up streets and not fixing them timely. What does this pivot look like, because it's still actively happening in this district?
Well, first of all, in terms of in this district, well, Sarah kind of mentioned it. The responsible bidders ordinance is one that we worked on within the administration and with the New Orleans City Council. Particularly, I believe, Councilman Giarrusso, you were a part of that heavily in regards to public works. And one, it just put teeth into that, ensuring accountability that they cannot tear up more streets than they're supposed to, that will then trigger an impact on payment and the payment delivery, but also wanting to build a system so where they will not be able to respond to bids in the city of New Orleans. That continues to be a work in progress. It's something that I wanted to do away with long time, especially if you're suing the city and then you come back and you get your award of the contract. In certain circumstances, we cannot prevent that, but accountability means that we have project managers, that project managers are actively responsive, showing up, making sure that contractor, that their project manager is on the scene. And when they see us out there, accountability breeds accountability breeds accountability. And so this is where we're going. Anything to add on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I would just say, that in general, I think the contracting community has responded really well to some of the changes that we're making, but there are definitely some that have been bad actors, and we're continuing to have these issues. We've had to terminate contracts for convenience. And actually, just last week, I issued what's called a 30-day cure letter to a contractor where we found, I think, about 80 instances of violations of our specifications and just, debris all over the neighborhood. And they have, 30 days to respond to that and provide a real plan for resolving those issues. And if they can't do that, we're going to have to move to terminate the contract. And obviously, when those things happen, it makes it a little more complicated because it may take longer to get the work done. But we have to we have to be accountable. We have to make them accountable, and we've got to just get rid of the contractors that are not willing to take the care and take quality of life into account while they're working in our neighborhoods.
That's the command one? That's command?
I was trying not to say who, but yes. That one.
I'm sorry. No, I'm just trying to check. It really is now, it's a handful. And, from the onset, it was perceived as like the contractors are doing us a favor by working in our city, but we're paying real money. Like, this isn't monopoly money, this is real. And it's almost like, hey, we're working in your city, you should be happy. Well, we are happy that you're working in our city, but you do have to respect our community, our neighborhoods, because we're paying for this service. And so, as Sarah mentioned, there are some bad actors, and it's a very hard pill to swallow when you have to go forward and cut them off, because we know it will have a direct impact in the neighborhood and it will prolong the project. But again, accountability breeds accountability.
Yes. Considering the ongoing public health crisis that our youth are experiencing, what percentage of the 2024 budget will be committed to youth and families?
Okay. So I don't have a percentage at this time because we're building out the budget. It hasn't been built yet. And so from hearing from you in terms of priorities, that will influence the request that therefore goes into the budget book as proposed and therefore goes to the New Orleans City Council for their hearings and ultimately their approval. So I don't have a number for any department for 2024 because we're just not there yet.
The follow-up is, what metrics are being used to determine that youth and their families are at the greatest risk or getting the increased access to resources and support?
Well, we have taken on the kids count. We have countless instruments, partners that we have worked with to ensure that we know firsthand where the disparity gaps are in the city. But also we look at the data from families that we do serve from the multiple programs that we offer, and we use that data to determine and do that overview in terms of where are we meeting the mark, where we need to go deeper with outreach to therefore reach families in our city. So it is an ongoing process, but definitely wanting to stay connected to families overall.
Can we get more strategic about lighting around the city? The basketball court and Holly Grove lights on the court shouldn't go off before 7 p.m. when the sun sets as at 8 o'clock. It would be nice to have some solar lights, but most importantly, besides the timers being on and efficient.
Okay, so knowing specifically they talked about a ball field lights out, we can definitely talk about that. But lighting overall, we're moving things along there. There was a little hiatus, I will have to say. There was an issue, a contractual issue that also had an impact and was impacted by the city council freezing budgets. Based on that, we were able to get things back on, I would say, in par or on par, and we have a contractor that has been onboarded and that is doing work every day throughout the city of New Orleans. If there are specific areas, like you mentioned the ball field, if there are others that you are concerned about, we would like to hear about them so that we can put forth not only an effort, but real focus in those immediate areas. Larry?
Yeah, and listen, definitely make sure, I'm Larry Barabino Jr., CEO of NORD Commission. Make sure you let me know which specific ball field that is, because our ball fields are the lights are set on timers from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. But if we have a storm that comes through or we lose power in that community, that throws the timers off. So we need to know when that happens in the community. Let us know. You can contact 311 or you can contact NOAA directly, 658-3011. 504-658-3011, and we can adjust that and have a crew to come out and fix those lights. But also I wanted to touch on something that you talked about earlier, is when you were talking about youth and capturing the data on that. With NOAA, we make sure that we're capturing the data with the youth that's coming in either through our rec track system when they're coming in participating in our programs, but also because we receive a lot of CDBG funding for our programs, we also capture the income of the kids that's coming in. But with that, we've extended our programming to offer more opportunities for our youth and our teens as it relates to our paid internship programs for our teens that's going on. And we're grateful to the mayor and the council also for approving some WISNA funds that came to NORD to specifically work with our teens on different programming for teens, so that those teens that's participating on those committees receive a stipend for doing so. So we want to make sure that we're informing everyone of that, but also make sure that you're going to the NORD websites to find out the different programming and opportunities for our youth, teens, and families, but specifically for our teens as they participate in our internship programs, they receive a stipend for participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And just to add, and as I was speaking about the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families, under that umbrella is NORD, the New Orleans Public Library, and our schools. So data is tracked on all fronts by the office as well. So looking at it comprehensively. And Larry mentioned that NORD uses CDBG dollars, and those dollars come from HUD. And so here recently, the city of New Orleans, we were audited by HUD, and I will have to say we passed with flying colors. That's a testament to the work that we're doing. But Larry, your organization, your agency was one of them, as well as property management. So we were doing the jig, Tyra and I, on Tuesday evening when we got the word that we passed with flying colors. So that's progress in your city. When I got in here 5 years ago, the letter I received from HUD, you need to repay us $5 million because you didn't submit X, X, and X. I told Marjorie-Anna at the time, who was the director, I said, Marjorie-Anna, we have to do something about this because we don't have $5 million. Well, Tyra, her leadership, her team, they found the paperwork, and then the next letter I received is, city doesn't owe us anything. So progress. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Is there a plan to add glass recycling to the regular recycling program?
Ooh, I want to get there. Matt, we're just happy, first of all, to have recycling back in the city of New Orleans. That's a big deal, but we don't want to stop there. And I know, Mr. Burnside, this speaks to your heart as well. Matt.
Hey, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, and I'd echo your comment. We are very happy to have curbside recycling back citywide after Hurricane Ida. Just for informational purposes, any eligible city location that the city provides solid waste collections to is eligible for free curbside recycling. You can request a 65-gallon recycling cart via 311, and we will promptly bring one out to you. When it comes to glass recycling, the city of New Orleans is really focused currently on a drop-off model. We have our Saturday drop-off at Elysian Fields, which is open to all residents, where you can bring your glass to. We partner with Glass Half Full on the processing of that material, so keeping that locally here and bettering those projects. But really, there's a couple of factors at play when it comes to picking up glass curbside. One, you have to have a processor who can accept it. We currently don't have a processing facility that would accept single stream curbside glass, which means if we did do a curbside program, it would have to be a standalone pickup, which means extra trucks running around the city, picking up glass from each household, and that would be counterintuitive to the higher goal of our climate action plan. So I think we have been doing significant work around providing more drop-off options, partnering with Glass Half Full, but also looking long-term at a processing facility here in New Orleans, which would be able to take single stream glass, which means you would be able to put your glass in your single stream cart that the city provides to you on your recycling collection day curbside. So those efforts are underway. The city has several applications for grants with federal programs that are in the works right now, which directly feed into that. We're optimistic that we would be selected for some of those grants, which would provide for that processing capability, which means sometime in the near future, you may be able to use your curbside recycling cart for glass.
Thank you very much, Matt, but staying very much focused on sanitation as it relates to our budget for 2024 as well. Ms. Kimber?
Yes. Will funds be available in 2024 for house elevation?
Okay, so that is really in partnership with, that's our hazard mitigation program. And primarily those dollars come from the state and even through the federal level. We have awarded several of those opportunities this year. Whether or not they will be baked in or moved toward into 2024, I can't tell you specifically now, but I can tell you that yes, it is a priority to ensure that people who want to have their homes elevated have the opportunities to do so. Colin is coming forward because our Office of Homeland Security really manages this side of the operation relative to hazard mitigation.
Thanks. Came up more than I thought I would tonight. Hazard mitigation is a program in my office. I have 3 really great employees that work very hard on federal grant programs. Home elevations is probably our largest one that we seek out every year. All our applications are in for 2024. We anticipate that we will have no issues getting all of the projects approved and the grants funded. We're the largest user of home elevation grants in the country. We've elevated over 500 since 2012, and we're not looking back on. Home elevation will always be a part of our strategy in the city with dealing with both disasters and now climate change. Yeah. Thanks.
What I would love,
sorry,
ahead,
Mayor, everything I've mentioned tonight you can find at our website at ready.nola.gov, including about how to register for alerts.
But what is bubbling up from some residents that are interested and even that have been awarded a hazard mitigation grant, it is the match, or whether it's a 20% that they need to come up with. So one thing that we want to do is try to figure out how can we create some type of a fund to help families with that match. Kemba.
Can you expand on what environmental programs the budget includes and the priority list of them, and how is this different from stormwater and wastewater and the infrastructure?
Well, it all kind of goes together in various areas, and so whether that's the DPW, whether that's Sewage and Water Board, and even the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. I will ask Greg, I know he's coming up, but to talk whether it's the EV stations, whether it's parkers with the planning, you know, whether that is mitigation or our fleet. You know, it comes in so many different areas. But Greg, you want to rattle off some?
Sure, thanks, Madam Mayor. So Greg Nichols, I lead the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. You know, our office works across city government and city offices to implement the city's climate action plan. And so a lot of what we do is done throughout other departments. And so you can see environmental funding in Parks and Parkways for their tree planting program, in sanitation for their recycling program. And then our office is going out and aggressively, as the mayor's mentioned several times, pursuing federal funding for a number of initiatives, whether that, the mayor mentioned an EV charging grant that we put in. We're also looking at a Solar for All, and expanding the city's current Solar for All program. And so, you know, the funding that comes through is we're often relying on the historic investment from the federal government through the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act. And so, you know, thankfully, we've got a great team going after those grants, and we're hopeful and fingers crossed that we're going to continue to receiving. Our office secured over $4.7 million in the last year, and we have a number of pending applications right now. And so, should we receive them, we should have a number of additional dollars headed towards the city.
Thank you, Greg. And one of the biggest ones that I'm excited about that we've worked very hard to pull off, because we identified a project. And we identified a project for Gordon Plaza, the agricultural landfill. And because we identified a project that has gotten approval and love from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, that then allowed this city to begin buyouts with families, 67 of them, living at Gordon Plaza. And so that will be repurposed as a solar farm, creating more redundancy in terms of power in the city of New Orleans. And I think that is the one great example of what we're doing environmentally. In addition to that, you know, I have to talk about our complex, our power complex that is under construction right now with the Sewage and Water Board, a total game changer for the city of New Orleans based on redundancy, as well as our pumping capacity, meaning we're going to restructure that all together, and we're paying 5 times the amount right now to operate as we are. This will change things completely, making us more resilient and sustainable as a city. This also speaks to the Carrollton Water Plant, millions being poured into there as well, in addition to the smart meters that are being installed as well. So things are happening in this city that have never happened before, and we will continue to stay focused to deliver for you. Ms. Kimba.
Yes, we're down to our last 4 questions, and then we'll read comments, and there we go. What does community development services in the budget priority list entail?
So community development, the Office of Community Development, pretty much it lives under this department, Office of Community Development. And the majority of these dollars, as I talked about, are federal dollars that come from HUD, CDBG, and the like. So most of the focus is on affordable housing, on homelessness, on making sure that resources are provided to our people living with HIV/AIDS in our community. There are wraparound services as it relates to the Office of Community Development. You want to add something there, Tyra? Rental assistance, utility assistance, it just goes on.
And public service, like our seniors. So Carrollton Holly Grove is one of the projects that is funded through the Office of Community Development by way of Council on Aging. So we have the housing side of it as well as the public service side of it.
Yep, and Council on Aging was also a part of that HUD most recent audit. Again, came out looking great. That's a good thing. Thank you, Tyra.
What is the state of the short-term rentals in the city?
Oh, wow. Okay, so short-term rental right now, I know that money has been put forward, and this came from the public, came from you as a priority, into code enforcement and safety and permits. And we have had to hire up. We're still hiring. And right now, the team is working very hard relative to the lottery that was put in place by the New Orleans City Council. You know that is land use, and that's something that is managed really in terms of the council, but administered by the administration. Councilman, I believe that you all will deal with commercial short-term rental after this process. Okay, anything you want to add?
So yes, ma'am, we decided we wanted to deal with the residential side first because that was what the Fifth Circuit order changed. Remember, council had passed, if you had a homestead exemption, that was the only way to have a short-term rental. The United States Fifth Circuit struck that down, so we had to start all the way from scratch all over again. The mayor is 100% right that because we were under a deadline to get the residential side done, we pulled the commercial side back. I've said personally for places, particularly in our district, like Ferret Street, Oak Street, Magazine, where you have commercial abutting residential, we have to take a very close look at that and how we want those things living side by side. And I think in terms of going forward, and the mayor is also right that we've funded additional positions in the short-term rental office. So you have A, more people who are available, and B, I think before the mayor came in, you didn't even have any software to track anything that's going on. So Safety and Permits has purchased that software to make sure that the city now has the ability to track what's going on. Of course, we want to make sure that the enforcement is as robust as possible and ensure also that for people who are living in their homes and supplementing their income, they're not being forced out because you have all of these bad actors who are doing things to make it harder to live here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman. Ms. Kimba?
Yes, and the next question is the city considering any net stabilization or rent stabilization legislation?
Councilman, that's on the legislative side.
I don't know that we're considering rent stabilization per se. I think the biggest thing is what the mayor alluded to at the very beginning. We are extraordinarily sensitive to the fact that insurance rates have gone up. We're extraordinarily sensitive to the fact that utility rates have gone up. And we're extraordinarily sensitive to other costs have gone up as well. So the best way for the city to hedge against that right now is what the mayor alluded to earlier. With assessments going up by 23%, what happens as a matter of law is the city millages get rolled back by 23%. So on the city side, we are committed, both the administration and the mayor mentioned it in our opening remarks this morning, that neither the city nor the council is going to roll those millages forward. And then we, the council, and letting the administration know, have the other taxing entities who have these millages and said, hey, do us a favor and please don't roll your millages forward either. So I think that is the place to start. I know the mayor has mentioned soft seconds. I think part of what we're looking at too is how we can use taxing programs to incentivize keeping rents as low as completely possible. And then of course, I think part of the other thing that we want to be focused on is limiting those short-term rentals, also in this district further away, doubles to dorms, because when you have these commercial enterprises that start getting into neighborhoods, they raise the residential rates, and that's what starts pushing renters and people who have the capacity to buy out.
Thank you, Councilman. And we do stay very much focused on the fact that we are a city still of majority renters, and that means that we have work to do. And so these programs that we talk about through the Office of Community Development, particularly home ownership and even getting our people into duplexes and the like, it's a part of the strategy, literally, of building wealth within our community, people who have been disproportionately impacted. And so it's a priority, but again, we are a city, still majority renters. And a healthy city is one that has a larger combination of home ownership. Not saying that, well, and also a part of being a healthy community, yes, you do have renters as well, but we need to get that number up in the city of New Orleans, helping our people build wealth, transferable wealth. Ms. Kimba?
Yes, this is our last question of the night before comments, and before we dive into that one, I want to let you know that the next budget community meeting will be held on Monday, August 7th. That will be in District E, and it'll be held at Martin Luther King Jr. High School, located at 5300 Law Street. And they're asking that you enter on the Andre side. And also, if you were not able to submit your questions this evening, you are able to submit it to citybudget@nola.gov. All right, here's the final question. What is being done to manage localized flooding in Holly Grove?
Okay. So localized flooding in Holly Grove, in terms of what is being done, is the infrastructure work that is being completed, but also in queue to be done. The first line is that we are digging up streets that have not been dealt with in over 100 years plus. There's never been a time that we have had the resources nor the focus on the work that we're doing right now. And so that will help with localized flooding. But again, in addition to these other things that we're doing, investing in sewage and water board, creating the redundancy that's necessary, DPW going even further with systems, green, blue infrastructure. Also working with our homeowners so that you can come up with strategies to hold stormwater on your private properties, helping it and freeing it up from going into the drains as well. But this is a unified approach. It's one that we're working with homeowners directly on, and partner organizations that receive dollars from the city to therefore work with our homeowners, our property owners, both on the residential side and on the commercial side. So it is a mixed bag of things that can be done to help minimize local flooding. But all of those things being done will help with that. So, you know, we have work to do, but I have to say, we have not had localized flooding like we have seen in the past, and definitely since 5 years ago, me being picked up from a high water vehicle just 2 weeks into the job. And so progress is being made. Thank you so much again for being here tonight. I wanted to just acknowledge once again the hardworking men and women and men of the city of New Orleans. You know, when one serves, we all serve, our families right along, and we've answered the call to service. We need more people in our community to join us. It takes good people to serve and to lean forward in service. You do have that in all of us. We also have, of course, I saw our chief, Woodford here. I see Chief Nelson here. I see Chief Samaran here. Carl from OPCD, Fasthold is here. So our full complement of public safety, they're in the room with us, but more importantly, every single department within city government that works on your behalf. I believe you said you had a comment to read?
I have a few comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
yes,
go ahead.
We're perfectly good. I would like to see more public pools open. Often Nord pools in specific are closed or being used for water aerobics. It would be nice to go to Lincoln Beach or a water place other than Audubon because it's sold out frequently. Can we see pools in neighborhoods that are heat deserts or communities missing pools?
Okay, yes. Pools in the city of New Orleans is something that not only we have invested in to get them operating, but also more going and coming into the city of New Orleans. So I think the most recent cutting the ribbon, we cut the ribbon on Morris FX Jeff. In addition to that, we need you to help us with lifeguards, okay? And we can start right now. So when you talk about wanting pools open, again, it goes back to the capacity. We need lifeguards. To be very creative in that regard, Nord did something very special. They created a junior lifeguard program that allowed our young people, 13 to 15, to get involved, get the training, get certified, but also onboarded for this summer more lifeguards than we had the previous year, with our eyes on greater results the upcoming year. But we can't do it alone. So Larry, there you go.
Yeah, and so we're saying that actually, Madam Mayor is correct. And with that, we actually this year, we're expanding we're expanding the length of time that our outdoor and seasonal pools are staying open. For an example, our seasonal pools normally close the day after Labor Day. Well, we're expanding them now till the end of September. A certain number of pools, our outdoor pools, are going to open on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, to extend those days for the pools that are open. But specifically in this community, we have the Harrell pool that didn't open this year because it's adjacent to Sewage and Water Board, and there's a big construction project that's going on, which for safety reasons prevented us from opening that pool. However, we have Gertown Natatorium as well as Rosenwald Pool that did open, that's near this community. And as much as persons are asking for pools to be open, based upon the data that Rosenwald Pool right now, it's minimal usage. We have pools that's open with no patrons going to those pools. So right now, we're really assessing our seasonal pools based upon the visitation rate, based upon the data, and we're trying to see which ones we're actually going to close instead of keeping open. So Rosenwald Pool has been open with minimal patrons attending once kids started gearing up back for school. So that pool is open. Gertown Natatorium is open in this community. So right now, as we're pushing to open more pools and bring more lifeguards on, we're noticing the downtrend of usage of the pools right now.
Yes, thank you very much, Larry.
All right. As you speak, the pattern that I hear is the city contractors continually using our city as a smash and grab, not completing the work. Is this happening to other cities? Is this something that the Office of the Inspector General should look into?
Well, it's something that, one, we work directly with the contracting community on. The Associated General Contractors is the overarching organization, if you will, of the contractual community for the region. And so we consult, we meet with them. We also meet with, and directly, and I meet with them, directly the contractors that have been either doing a poor job, and even those that are doing a great job that can even mentor those into doing a better job. I think that any area in terms of, waste, fraud, and abuse is something that the IG can look into. But Sarah, anything you would add relative to that? I think we're moving forward with canceling contracts and the like. That is our way, but clearly we can do more.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that, the mayor alluded to this early on. No other city has done this amount of construction before, so we're quite unique in this regard. And these projects are also unique. They're different from our traditional public works projects, which are usually a few blocks on one street. These contractors are getting hundreds of blocks at a time. So it's a very different kind of construction, I think, that is happening in other cities. So we are definitely unique in that regard. And as the mayor said, we're taking steps to ensure that things run more smoothly in the future.
Yeah, and project managers, we did a major contract for project managers so that we can increase our internal capacity that will therefore hold these contractors accountable, meaning us being on the ground in the neighborhoods. We've just seen this produce greater results, and we're going to keep on that path. But I think also with this one particular contractor, maybe getting their contract canceled will also send a message to the contractual community. Sometimes one needs to be that example. But in addition to that, we have debundled the work in the city as well, so getting multiple contractors on and some of our small firms as well that can participate. So it's a work in progress, but we're wanting to make sure the work gets done timely, and so that we put ourselves in the best situation to get more federal dollars to do all of the work that's needed to get done in our city. Again, it's not painless. I apologize for that, but our goal is to make it as painless as possible. But this is unprecedented work. It needs to get done. I'm happy that we're seeing the resources to get it done, but I'm gonna tell you, we have projects in the pipeline that we want to get to as well, and we need resources for them. Kimba.
Yes, I would like to see more events like this. This has been empowering. I am encouraged by my city, neighborhood, and community members. I would like to continue for us to have monthly meetings like we have had this week and past year. I have seen much change, and I know that we all have a way to go, but I would like for us to continue to learn, grow, and be accountable for our neighborhoods and one another. Can the mayor's office promise to commit to at least one meeting a month per district to walk with us and collectively decide the best resolutions together?
Well, what I will say, first of all, I appreciate the comment. And being from community and being a community organizer, I love it. This is me. This is me. I don't have a problem with it at all. It's just a time. And so the time of all of us. And so I know that you want us working on your behalf. Now, when I was a council person, I had meetings every month as well. And that's where the council works in balance, I would say, and really in partnership with city government across the board. So councilmen, if you want to do more and you want to engage us in, I'm there with you, I'll commit to something. I know that I can't do once a month. However, someone from our team will be present. But I'll have to say now, councilmen, you have our people down in that council chamber a lot. So you all can go to that meeting too, but I do agree, being in the community, it matters, and that's what makes me smile. You can meet people where they are. So we'll work on more neighborhood engagement. Do not cringe. And I always come to work with an idea or something like, here she goes again, how are we gonna do this? But they always pull it off. So we'll work at it, okay? Thank y'all. So thank you to some of our deputy chiefs, our captains, our men and women in blue. Of course, fire is here. Thank y'all so much. Homeland Security, thank you so much for what you do on our behalf. But all city leadership, thank you. Dr. Vec, no, you didn't say anything. I see in my dot. I gave the chief a shout out earlier. Chief, I think I did it when you stepped out, and I didn't do it on purpose either. So Chief Woodfork is in the building too. So with that, thank y'all so much.